What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a couple days since I've uploaded. I've been traveling. I'm now currently in Colombia. It's definitely been an eventful experience so far. I actually lost my checked-in luggage, or I should say that Avianca lost it. So I have zero clothing, which will be fun this week going shopping for new stuff. So bear with me if the next few days things are still erratic in terms of scheduling uploads. I'm still trying to get settled here, but today I kind of want to do a recap about the past couple days, the weekend. Friday was the ETB update in the spreadsheet. We didn't really talk about that. And then today, after I got here to my Airbnb, I did the Scarlet Violet Air booster box update, and there are some interesting things to go over. I think we do actually have a new king, a new leader per se, when it comes to sales volume on the ETB side, so we will discuss that later on. I do want to first just go over the booster boxes. So if we start with SV Base, and actually a lot of the booster boxes were up a couple dollars this week. Some of them are starting to rebound, it seems, off their low price. Again, maybe this is just a short-term blip on the radar. Over the next couple months, we'll still see them trend downwards. Who knows? But things are looking promising over the past couple of weeks. So SV Base, we're back up to around $231 USD. Pal Day Evolved, we're sitting around $368. That was up about $1 from last week. Obsidian was down a little bit, but it's still in that $289, $290 range. Paradox, we're back up to around $235, so I think that was like a $3 or $4 jump. And Temporal Forces is up to $282.34, continuing to move higher, which I don't really understand this. If you look at the amount of supply on the secondary market, there's a ton of Temporal out there. It just seems like on TCG Player, you might not have the sellers that have the crazy amount of boxes, whereas on eBay, you have Hobbiesville, you have a couple other large stores that still have 5, 6, 7, maybe even 10 cases or more worth of Temporal Forces. So an interesting set to say the least. Twilight was down a little bit this week. Stellar Crown, I believe, same deal. Nothing really worth talking about here, in my opinion. Surging is where things get interesting again. We're back to around $230 on TCG Player. Those $200 sales, the $195 sales, those didn't last long. A lot of those got scooped up. You can still find the odd box, I think, around $210, $215, but I still don't think that is going to last too long. When we look at supply this week compared to last week, only about 75%, so a lot less boxes on the market, and sales volume was actually up compared to last week by, I believe, like another 2 or 3 boxes per day by now eBay North America. And the levels the box is selling at are basically unrivaled at this point. Nothing even gets close to it. Even Destin Rivals at its peak, I don't think hit current surging levels. And Destin is still a very interesting set to talk about, sitting around $386 on TCG Player. There was actually less supply on eBay this week, even with the box moving up. And sales volume is coming down as the box continues to press higher, but it's still impressively high for a box that's about $385, $400 USD. It's just wild to me. I do expect a lot more Destined to come to market eventually. I might get burned on that prediction over the next few years, but that's what I'm hedging on. And Journey Together, just the final set to touch on, not really anything worth talking about here. This is down to around $245. I think at its peak a couple months ago, we were sitting around $265. So 10% pullback there or so. You can still find boxes of this on eBay, I believe for like $210, maybe even as low as $200 for the enhanced and unenhanced versions. Now, moving into the ETB talks, I think this is where the more interesting things happen this week. For the longest time, you guys know, Prismatic Evolutions, this was the best-selling ETB from the Scarlet and Violet era in any era, right? Even Celebrations, Shining Fates, Crown Zenith, Champion's Path, none of these sets could get even close to the amount of boxes that Prismatic was moving on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. However, that actually changed this week for the first time, I think ever. Black Bolt ETBs actually sold more on eBay North America, buy it now, compared to Prismatic. And it's not groundbreaking numbers for Black Bolt. I think they are very impressive, but we do have to remember and give a little context to the Prismatic situation. Back in about June of this year, so 5, 6 months ago at this point, there were weeks during June and July where Prismatic was selling well over 100 ETBs per day by it now eBay North America. That is insane. And for context, Black Bolt right now, I think is about 15.5, which is still great. Again, that's amazing. And it makes sense because this ETB is only about $80 and it has a ton of value inside of it. But just compared to where Prismatic was, it's not even close. And I don't think we're ever going to see numbers like that again with these sets. Maybe if something new comes out, it's even crazier. Sure, that's always going to be a possibility. But with the sets we currently have in the SV era, I don't see that happening. Now, I should mention too, I just bought a case of the Black Bolt ETBs, and I am a huge fan of these. I think I'm planning to dollar cost average over the next couple of years. I don't know how large my position is ultimately going to end up, but I do imagine I'm going to have a decent size play into these. I'll probably balance it out as well with a little bit of White Flare eventually. I don't think White Flare is as good of a set, and you can see here, when you look at the Victini, the Reshiram, sure, they're great cards, but when you look at Black Bolt, that Zekrom, it's about $100 more than what the Reshiram, the white card at least, is going for in White Flare. And then just go further down the list. The Reshiram EX SIR, not as good in my opinion as the Zekrom. Then you have the Seismitoad illustration, $170. Nothing really comparing. In White Flare, you have Hydreigon SIR around $77. Then it drops down to the Keldeo. And I do love a lot of these artworks. I think the Oshawott amazing. I like the Zoroark. I like Zorua. Even the Chandelure, which probably isn't a lot of people's favorite Pokemon, I still think is a very interesting artwork. Now, with that said, I think when we try and apply this to investing into these sets, you probably should still have your largest position in Prismatic compared to something like Black Bolt, but I still am a fan of the set. I think a lot of people underrate how strong it is, how desirable the cards are. You should be building a position in this. Even White Flare, I haven't started yet building a position in here, but I do plan to eventually get some ETBs and then maybe even booster bundles or other products that I see fit. And outside of all of those sets, I do want to just quickly touch on Paldean Fates, which seems to have kind of stabilized in like the $250, $255 range. I know these were down to around $220 on TCG Player. That really didn't last long. On eBay, when you checked lowest listed, it was never really at that like 220 mark. Maybe there's one listing or something. I'm sure the odd seller looked at TCG Player and adjusted their price, but most people stayed around 275, 280, even up to around $300. I personally don't think we should have seen this box correct all the way down from 300 to 220 anyways. That is just my opinion. And then also 151, we don't really talk about this too much anymore. There's a lot more supply coming to market. And I haven't really come to a conclusion yet on 151, whether it's kind of stabilized in this 370, 380 range, or if there's still room for it to continue moving downwards. And I think the main reason why I haven't come to a conclusion yet is because every week I do the update in the spreadsheet. Sales volume has stayed fairly consistent. I think it is dropping slightly, but there is a lot more supply coming to market. I think there's probably close to about 200 ETBs or 20 cases worth of 151 below, I don't know, like $430, $440 this week, which is a ton considering back in the summer, we were lucky if there was 2 cases worth of ETBs below a 20% leg up. But that's all I really wanted to talk about today. You guys let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Also, if you are shopping eBay, TCG Player, Hobbiesville, I do have affiliate links down below. They're free and easy to use. All you have to do is click on it before you do your shopping. I'll get a small percentage of the sale at no extra cost to you, so it's a free and easy way to support the channel. But with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Stay safe wherever you are in the world, and I'll catch you in the next one.